Serious, how anxious do you feel about the coronavirus? I have some experience with epidemiology and infectious diseases and am in the loop with some of the professionals in this field at my university. I'm anxious because the spread is not being contained. We're likely not far out from this being declared a pandemic. I'm not at all anxious about the impacts on my own health. The stats so far suggest I'm at very low risk given my age, gender and clean bill of health. I am, however, somewhat anxious for some of my loved ones. My mother has been a smoker for most of her life and has recently just recovered from an extended chest infection. My younger brother has had 2 bouts of pneumonia in his lifetime, with no good explanation of cause. If you have elderly loved ones or others with existing health conditions, be a good person and have a chat to them about their preparedness and hygiene knowledge. It's not an onerous thing to do, and if the outbreak settles down, no harm done. Not extremely? Maybe that's due to a lack of knowledge on what the disease actually does. According to the CDC, the primary symptoms are fever, cough, and shortness of breath. Based on that, most adults with an uncompromised immune system should be okay. I am, however, very worried about children and immunocompromised people. Geneticists hear this virus has the ability to become a pandemic. It is possible for us to get it under control, but due to the long incubation period and the fact that a significant 14% of those infected don't show any symptoms, it is easily spread from person to person. However, if reporting is accurate, there is a higher recovery rate from this virus than there was from the SARS virus. As an old person with a compromised immunity system, if I catch it I will die. No problem, I am going to die soon anyway, better by COVID-19 than dementia. Supply of food would be a problem since I cannot eat most of the shit in the regular grocery stores. Getting to my local farmer's market might be a challenge. Since its prime vector is feces, I would have no problem there. I am punctilious about hand washing, but since the masks do not prevent airborne infection, there is not much that can be done there. However, I rarely interact with anyone outside my house, so I am not going to rush and order face masks. The way I see it, the people most impacted will be old, like me, compromised, like me, having had cancer, like me, diabetes, my husband, or a history of asthma, not me. 2 out of 3, if I get it, I am gone. No big deal. If you asked me yesterday before 10 p.m., I would have said not anxious at all. My husband came home last night from picking up one of his elderly clients from the airport. He told me that the airline would not allow passengers to get off the plane until they escorted a passenger that had barricaded themselves in the plane's restroom for the majority of the flight. It turns out that passenger was infected with the coronavirus. So this elderly client was possibly exposed to the coronavirus during her flight, which means my husband was exposed, which means now I've been exposed as well as our 3-year-old daughter. I honestly am freaking out and don't know what to do. I am a little concerned. I don't think it would kill me, but I have a neuromuscular syndrome that gets a lot more painful for a few weeks after respiratory infections. So I would really like to avoid catching it. A lot. My little brother has a disease that makes him have low immunity, and he had a lot of respiratory diseases in the past, so I'm afraid I get it and pass to him somehow. Yesterday was confirmed the first case here in Brazil, and I live in Rio, so there are people from all over the world arriving every day. Living in Thailand. We had 4 international trips that just got cancelled. Things were pretty good until we just had a breakout in my province this week and very close to my kids' school. They're off tomorrow as the school cleans everything as a precaution. It's not the virus so much that scares me, it's the potential for death of old/young people in my family, and also social stigma and other financial impacts. Worried about getting the virus itself? Not too much. I'm young and healthy, so even if I do get COVID-19 I'll be fine. I'm worried about the long-term problems like the economy and how much Eastern Asian people may be discriminated against. I'm also worried about how the outbreak is going to affect my education, since I go to an international school in China and my school has been closed since CNY, and the opening time is now undefined. I'd say my worries on a scale of 1 to 10 is about an 8, but that's probably because it ties to my own life so closely. I'm from Slovenia, and while there are no cases in our country yet, so not too much, but we gave 4 neighbor countries. Croatia does have cases, Italy, many hotspots near our border, Austria also does have cases, and another country, don't know English name, but it almost doesn't count because it's only 5 to 10% of our border. I'm optimistic, but the thing that worries me the most is that our doctors said that they have no idea what to do if they meet someone with it. I'll have to wait, but panic begins when we will have our first case. Then I'll try not to go out when possible. The virus? Not at all. Its effects on my portfolio? Extremely. I have no retirement, I'm barely getting by without racking up mountains of debt, and a 30% loss in 5 days is absolutely ridiculous. I really don't want to exit any positions at a loss, so I guess I'm just going to wait it out, but holy shit, this hurts. As someone who works in healthcare, moderately worried. This thing seems to be fairly contagious, and people don't seem to grasp what a 2% fatality rate, okay let's say it's even way lower, 1%, would actually look like if this becomes widespread. While we are nowhere near there yet, this seems to have the potential to be the worst communicable disease outbreak we've seen in a long time, maybe excluding HIV. That said, we aren't there yet, and I don't think the current situation requires people to change their current routines, outside of restricting travel to hotspot areas. I live 20 minutes from the busiest airport in the world, but I work from home so don't leave the house much. But I'm pregnant. But I'm also pretty young and healthy with a fairly robust immune system. TBH, I'm more worried about all the secondary effects of a panic than I am about the virus itself. Infrastructure interruptions in particular would be a bear to deal with, and I don't have a lot of confidence in our current government's ability to handle it quickly or efficiently, at the state or federal level. My husband is a pretty level-headed guy, Army vet, not particularly emotional or impulsive, and he's telling me to stock us up on non-perishables we can cook in our jet boil and make sure the spare gas canisters we keep around are full. So there's that. Honestly, kind of want to use this as an excuse just to go fuck off to my parents' ranch in Texas for a while. Miles from anyone with its own electric and water, plus satellite internet. It's been our designated emergency safe location if the shit goes down for a while now. Might be time for an extended working vacay. Living in a shared house in the French Alps, and my housemate informed us yesterday, literally by chance as we just so happened to be talking about friends visiting, that his Italian girlfriend is visiting tomorrow from a region that has 11 reports of the virus. It's pretty irresponsible of anyone to be traveling, especially from areas with confirmed reports. Cold spread very quickly in this shared house of 12 people, so I'm slightly concerned, especially as this girlfriend hasn't been able to get checked at the doctors because it's closed due to coronavirus in the area. I'm pretty angry right now more than anything. Should we be asking my housemate to postpone this visit? I feel like I'm the only one who has an issue with it right now. Frown. A little. 1. About my work. As preparing exhibits for marketing. Many of my projects are postponed or cancelled. My boss is now considering closed for several weeks. So I'm concerned about my paychecks. 2. I'm relatively young, so I think I'll be just fine even if I caught virus. But what if there'd be not enough facilities for treatment, if I got it? This is happening in China, I believe. That's why people keep dying. Even the amount/percentage looked not that serious, but people are actually dying with those reasons. Very anxious. My family is based in Taiwan, and I guess I receive more information about this than most people here. The most horrifying thing about this coronavirus is that a person with no apparent symptom, cough, fever, can still be infected with the virus. With that being said, he or she can carry this disease and travel anywhere without being quarantined. Second, the spread of the virus is not being contained at all in Asia. Chinese government did a great job underreporting the confirmed cases and the number of deaths. Japanese government did pretty much the same thing BC of the Summer Olympics. It is likely that the actual confirmed cases are way higher than in South Korea, over 1,000 as of today. The virus has begun to spread on a larger scale in Europe. The worrying part is that Europeans do not wear a face mask as much as Asian people do. They think if you are that sick, then just don't go to work. However, the virus spreads through sneezing, coughing, whatever. And the UEFA games are underway. Thousands of Italian fans just got back from watching the games with Lyon in France. Who knows how many Italians carry this virus? As a Singaporean, I would say I am not that worried. So far, the measures the government has taken to curb the spread of the virus is amazing. Although we have 90+ cases, we have at least 40 of them who are discharged. I just wish the citizens of the country stop overreacting, the panic buying of groceries, then trying to do a refund because they realize they didn't need them, or selling masks which are extremely overpriced, or even getting angry at healthcare professionals who use public transportation. Times like this, it is actually important to provide support and be there for one another. I'm mostly ambivalent personally. I don't believe in suicide. But if this takes me out, so be it. I'm financially screwed for life because of private student loans. I will die poor. It's just a question of how and when at this point. For my country, I wasn't worried until yesterday. Or whenever it was that our idiot president formed his committee of mouth breathers. Fucking pensée. We have a religious zealot in charge of a pandemic. That forcefully ignorant goon is just going to suppress science and pray for the rapture while we all die. I feel bad for my kids. Even if they make it through this, all they have to look forward to is climate change. The effects have never been so clear. Meanwhile, emissions are on the rise. Authoritarian leaders are popping up all over the world and dismantling any progress that was being made. Fucking sucks, man. Do you remember SARS, bird flu, swine flu, mad cow? There is always a virus about to end the world per the news. This one is a bit more aggressive than most. If you compare its lethality in less than ideal medical situations to the flu in first world countries, it is devastating. If you compare it to the flu in those conditions, it is on par. It's an ugly cold. I do not want it. I will take all reasonable precautions and keep a couple weeks worth of food in the house. In the off chance I get sick, I don't want to leave while sick. Otherwise, the only reason this goes full dark winter is if the news talks it into a national catastrophe. And you know what? They are doing their best. Got to sell that ad space and nothing like the Asian illness apocalypse to glue eyes to screens. The virus, not so much for myself. I consider myself healthy. My parents are older and I don't want them to die. So I have made them grab some extra food and prepared them to stay inside more. I am however preparing for a month quarantine at home, just in case. My office is being very prepared. If you travel to those places, China, Italy, etc., recently you are requested to stay home 2 weeks as precaution. And work from home. It's not holiday smile. I do find the rampage the virus has on the bodies that get critical very concerning. Scar tissue in lungs, forever weak lungs.